My beloved child, 2 minutes left, and mentions someone you love who is no longer here, because that combination directly connects with your feelings and makes it harder to think clearly, and when such messages sometimes include names like Archangel Michael, it is often to make them feel more powerful and believable, not because they are actually real or urgent. Take a moment and ask yourself something honestly. Has anything in your real life changed right now? Have you experienced anything that confirms that someone is trying to contact you in this way? Because if nothing has actually changed around you, then the message is not reflecting reality, it is only trying to create an emotional reaction inside your mind. When a message says, "Only 2 minutes left," it is not giving you real information, it is trying to remove your ability to think, because when you feel like time is running out, you act quickly without questioning, and that is exactly what such messages depend on. But the truth is, nothing important in real life disappears in a few minutes without any explanation or proof. And anything that pressures you like this should always be questioned. The part that mentions someone you love who has passed away is meant to create a deep emotional pull, because your mind holds strong memories of that person, and when you read something like this, those memories become active, and it can feel very real, almost like a connection, but in reality, it is your own mind bringing those emotions forward, not an actual message from somewhere else. And understanding this helps you stay calm instead of getting overwhelmed. Now bring your focus back to your surroundings. Everything is normal, nothing unusual is happening, and your life is continuing exactly as it was before you read this message. And this is the most important truth, because reality is always clear and visible, it does not depend on sudden or urgent messages. Instead of reacting, choose awareness. Don't let urgency control your actions. Don't let emotion override your thinking. Don't open or trust something just because it feels personal. If something is truly important, it will come to you clearly, through real and verifiable ways, not through pressure and fear. In the end, remember this simple truth. Not everything that feels emotional is real. Not everything that sounds urgent is true. And not everything that tries to rush you deserves your attention. Stay calm, stay aware, and stay in control. If you are still here, then take another slow breath and continue reading calmly, because now this message is not about fear. It is about understanding how your mind reacts and how you can stay in control, because when something says, 2 minutes left, it creates pressure, and when it adds someone you deeply love, it creates emotion, and when pressure and emotion combine, your thinking becomes fast and reactive. And that is exactly what such messages are designed to do. But the moment you slow down and think, that entire effect begins to break, because you realize that nothing in your real life is actually changing. Now notice your thoughts carefully, because your mind might still be thinking, what if it's real, or what if I miss something important? But it is very important to understand that this, what if, is not coming from reality, it is coming from the message itself, and once you recognize that, you stop treating it as something serious, and instead you see it as a temporary thought that does not need your action. And this is where your control becomes strong, because you are not reacting to every thought. You are choosing which ones deserve your attention. Think about the person you love for a moment, not in fear, but in peace. Remember how they were, how they cared about you, and what they would want for you right now. They would not want you to feel rushed, confused, or scared. They would want you to feel calm, safe, and stable. And this is the most important truth, because real love never creates fear or urgency. It creates comfort, and when you focus on that comfort, your emotions begin to settle naturally. Sometimes messages like these also use names such as Archangel Michael to make them feel more meaningful or spiritual, but true meaning never comes with pressure. It never says, "Act now or it's too late." Instead, it allows you to think clearly and understand things step by step, and that is exactly what you are doing right now. You are slowing down, observing, and thinking, and that is what keeps you grounded. Now bring your focus back again to what is real. Your surroundings are normal, nothing unusual is happening, and there is no real situation that requires your immediate action, and this is the most important part, because reality is always visible and stable. It does not depend on sudden messages or countdowns, and when you stay connected to that reality, your mind becomes calm again. At this stage, you are not being influenced anymore, because you understand how the message works and why it tried to affect you, and that understanding is what protects you, because once you know the pattern, you do not fall into it again. Instead you pause, observe, and think before acting, and that ability is what keeps you calm, aware, and in complete control of your thoughts and your response. If you are still here, then this is the stage where your control becomes even stronger, because now you are not just calming your thoughts, you are fully understanding them, and that makes a big difference, because earlier the message may have created a sense of urgency or emotional pull, but now you can clearly see that it was only designed to trigger that reaction, not to show something real. And once you recognize that, the effect of the message becomes weaker and weaker, because it no longer feels important, it just feels like something that tried to influence you. At this point, your mind might still bring back the idea of 2 minutes left, or the thought of someone calling you, but now you have the awareness to handle that. You can notice those thoughts without believing them, you can let them pass without reacting, and that is a very important skill, because it means you are no longer controlled by every thought that comes into your mind. Instead you are choosing what to focus on, and that choice keeps your mind stable and calm. Think again about your real situation. Nothing has changed. No real event is happening, and there is no actual countdown in your life, and this simple truth is what keeps you grounded, because reality is always consistent. It does not suddenly shift because of a message, and when you stay connected to that reality, your mind naturally becomes clear, because you are not chasing something uncertain anymore. The mention of someone you love may have felt very personal, but now you understand that this feeling came from your own memories and emotions, not from an external message, and those memories are something you can hold peacefully, not something that should make you feel rushed or afraid, and when you shift your focus from fear to understanding, those emotions. Sometimes messages like these may include references such as Archangel Michael to make them feel more meaningful, but now you clearly understand that true meaning never comes with urgency or pressure. It never forces you to act immediately. Instead, it allows you to stay calm and think clearly, and that is exactly what you have done, and that is why you are no longer affected by it. At this stage, you are fully in control, because you are not reacting, you are observing, and that awareness is what protects your peace, because once you understand how these messages work, they cannot disturb you in the same way again, and instead of feeling confused or emotional, you feel stable and clear, because you are grounded in reality, not influenced by suggestion. And this is the most important thing you take from this moment, that not every thought is true, not every message is real, and not every feeling requires action, and once you understand this deeply, you naturally remain calm, aware, and in control in any similar situation, because you know how to pause, observe, and think before reacting, and that is your real strength. If you are still here, then this is the stage where everything becomes completely steady inside your mind, because now there is no urgency, no fear, and no emotional pull left from that message, only clarity, and that clarity shows you that nothing in your real life was ever connected to it. Nothing changed, nothing needed your immediate action, and the idea of 2 minutes left was only created to make you react quickly. But once you slowed down and thought clearly, that pressure disappeared. Because you realized there was no real countdown, only a suggestion. Now you can also see how your mind handled the situation step by step. At first it may have felt a little curious or emotional, especially because it mentioned someone you love, but as you continued to stay calm and think logically, those feelings became softer, because they were not based on anything real, and this is an important realization, because it shows you that emotions can be triggered quickly, but they do not always represent reality, and once you understand that, you stop reacting to them instantly and start observing them instead. Think again about your present moment. Everything around you is normal, nothing unexpected is happening, and there is no real situation that requires urgency or action, and this simple truth is what keeps you grounded, because reality is always clear and visible. It does not depend on sudden or emotional messages, and when you stay connected to that reality, your mind becomes calm and stable again. The use of names like Archangel Michael in such messages may have made them feel more serious at first, but now you understand that true meaning never comes with pressure or fear. It never says, "Act now or something will be lost." Instead, it allows you to stay calm and understand things clearly, and that is exactly what you have done. You did not rush, you did not panic, you stayed and thought, and that is what brought you to this point of clarity. At this stage, you are fully in control of your response, because you are no longer reacting to what you read. You are deciding how to think and how to respond, and that control is what protects your peace, because once you have it, no message can easily disturb your mind, no matter how emotional or urgent it sounds. In the end, this becomes a simple and powerful understanding for you, that not everything urgent is real, Not everything emotional is true, and not everything that tries to rush you deserves your attention, and once you carry this understanding forward, you naturally remain calm, aware, and in control in every similar situation, because you know how to pause, observe, and think clearly before reacting, and that is your real strength. If you are still here, then this is the stage where your understanding becomes completely deep and unshakable, because now you are not just calm, you fully understand what happened, how it affected your thoughts, and how you brought yourself back to clarity, and that awareness is very powerful, because once you understand this process, no similar message can easily disturb you again, because you will recognize the pattern immediately. And that pattern is always the same. It creates urgency, it connects with your emotions, and then it pressures you to act quickly without thinking, and in this case it used the idea of 2 minutes left to rush you, and the mention of someone you love to make it feel personal, and when these two things combine, your mind naturally reacts faster. But the moment you paused and started thinking logically, you broke that entire pattern, and that is why the message lost its effect completely, because it depended on your reaction to feel real, and without that reaction, it becomes just a set of empty words. At this point, you also understand something deeper about your own mind, that it is naturally protective and emotional, and when it hears something connected to someone you love, it immediately becomes alert, it tries to understand, to respond, and sometimes even to react without full clarity, and this is normal, but what matters is what you do next, and in this situation you chose to slow down instead of reacting. You chose to observe instead of assume, and that is what gave you control. Because control over your thoughts means you do not get carried away by every emotional trigger, instead you guide your thinking with awareness, and that awareness is what keeps your mind stable and clear, because you are no longer following every thought that comes, you are deciding which thoughts deserve your attention. Now when you look back at the message, you can clearly see how it was structured. It started with urgency, then added emotional connection, and finally created pressure to act immediately, and once you recognize this structure, it becomes easy to identify similar messages in the future, because they all use the same approach, and this recognition gives you confidence, because you know exactly how to respond, not by reacting instantly, but by pausing, thinking, and checking what is real, and that habit becomes your strength, because it protects you from unnecessary stress and confusion. Bring your focus back again to your present reality, where everything is normal, where no sudden or hidden event is taking place, and where your life is still under your control, and this is the most important truth, because real life does not operate on sudden countdowns or emotional pressure, it operates on clear, consistent, and visible situations, and when you stay connected to that reality, your mind remains calm and grounded, because you are not chasing something uncertain, you are staying with what is real and verifiable. At this stage, you are not just free from the message, you are aware of why it had no value, and that awareness is what protects you in the long term, because once you understand how something works, it cannot easily influence you again, and this is what you have gained here, not just relief from one message, but of control over your thoughts and your reactions, and that control is what keeps you steady in any situation. In the end, this becomes a simple but powerful truth for you, that not everything that feels urgent is real, not everything that feels emotional is true, and not everything that tries to rush you deserves your reaction, and once you carry this understanding forward, you naturally remain calm, aware, and in control in every similar situation, because you know how to pause, observe, and think clearly before acting, and that. If you are still here, then this is the final stage where everything becomes completely calm, clear, and settled within you, because now there is no urgency, no emotional pull, and no confusion left from that message, only a deep understanding of what really happened, and that understanding shows you that nothing in your real life was ever connected to it, nothing changed, nothing needed your action, and the entire effect existed only for a moment inside your thoughts, and once you stopped reacting and started observing, that effect disappeared completely, and this is the most important realization, that your reaction is what gives power to such messages, and when you take that reaction away, they become meaningless. At this point, you can clearly see how your thinking moved step by step, from curiosity to questioning, and from questioning to complete clarity, and that process itself is your strength, because it shows that you did not allow your emotions to control you. Instead, you used awareness and logic to guide yourself back to reality, and that is what keeps you stable, because when you rely on what is real, you do not get lost in imagination or assumption, you stay grounded in what you can actually see and verify. Now your mind is completely steady, because it is no longer trying to imagine or predict something that was never real to begin with, and this stability allows you to focus on what truly matters, your real life, your real decisions, and your real priorities, and when your attention is focused on what is real, your confidence naturally grows, because you are not influenced by sudden or emotional messages. You are guided by your own understanding. The mention of someone you love may have felt strong at first, but now you understand that those feelings came from your own connection and memories, not from an external message, and those memories are something you can hold peacefully, not something that should create fear or urgency, and when you see it this way, your emotions become calm and balanced instead of intense and reactive. At this stage, you are fully in control of your thoughts and your response, because you are no longer reacting to emotional triggers, you are choosing how to think and how to act, and that awareness becomes your strength, because it keeps you calm in situations that are designed to disturb you, and once you have this control, nothing can easily shake your clarity. And now you reach the final truth, that your peace, your clarity, and your control always come from within you, not from outside messages, and once you understand this completely, you naturally remain calm, aware, and stable in every situation, because you are no longer reacting blindly, you are observing, thinking, and responding with clarity, and that awareness is what keeps you safe, focused, and in complete control of your mind and your reality. If you are still here, then this is the final level where everything becomes completely settled inside you, because now there is nothing left to question, nothing left to feel anxious about, and nothing left to analyze from that message, only a clear understanding that it had no real connection to your life, and that whatever it tried to create was only a temporary reaction inside your mind. And once you chose not to react and instead observe, it disappeared completely, and this is the most important realization, that your attention is what gives meaning to such things, and when you take that attention back, they lose all power. At this point, you also feel a sense of control, because you have seen how your thoughts can be influenced and how they can also be brought back to clarity, and that experience itself is valuable, because it shows you that no matter how strong a message feels in the beginning, it can be understood and neutralized with calm thinking, and that gives you confidence, because now you know that you are not easily affected. You are capable of handling such situations with awareness and stability. Now your mind is quiet and steady, because it is no longer chasing ideas, no longer imagining scenarios, and no longer reacting to urgency. It is simply present, focused on what is real, and that presence is what brings peace, because when you stay in the present moment, there is no space for unnecessary fear. There is only what actually exists, and what exists right now is normal, stable, and under your control. The mention of someone you love may have created an emotional response at first, but now you understand that those feelings came from within you, from your own connection and memories, not from any external message, and that understanding allows you to hold those feelings in a calm and respectful way, without letting them turn into fear or urgency, and that is a very important shift, because it transforms emotion into understanding instead of confusion. At this stage, you are not just in control, you are aware of how control works, because you understand that your response decides everything, and when you choose to pause, observe, and think clearly, you protect your mind from unnecessary disturbance, and this awareness becomes a habit, because once you learn it, you naturally apply it in every similar situation, and that keeps you stable no matter what kind of message appears. And this is the final truth you carry forward, that not everything that feels urgent is real, not everything that feels emotional is true, and not everything that tries to rush you deserves your reaction, and once this understanding becomes part of you, you remain calm, aware, and in control at all times, because you know how to stay grounded in reality, and that grounding is your real strength, your real protection, and your real peace.